Steam rises off a perfect apple pie on a wire rack. Sunlight cuts through lace curtains, making dust glitter over an old, neat kitchen. A phone on the counter chimes. Margaret Thompson, 64, steady hands, flour on her apron, taps the screen with a smile that crashes as a voice message autoplays. David, 40s, clipped, irritable. I can't stand this useless old hag anymore. Soon she'll be taking her final nap, and we'll be spending all her money in Paris. The sound dies. The room doesn't. Margaret blinks once, twice. She hits replay. The same words, word for word. A slice of ice down the spine. She locks the phone, places it flat like a poisonous thing, and lifts her eyes to the window. Outside, a small, stubborn garden, a row of rose bushes her late husband Robert planted every spring. Margaret. Well, honey, looks like it's time. She wipes her hands, crosses to a drawer, pulls a paper folder, important documents. She breathes, finds a card with a name and number. She dials. Intercut, phone call. Intern James Morrison's law office, evening. James Morrison, 60s, careful eyes, picks up on the second ring. Margaret, is everything all right? Remember July? Robert's special provisions? James goes still. Are you saying it's time? It's time. I'll make the calls. We'll have everything moving by morning. The call ends. Margaret stares at the pie. It gleams. She doesn't. Another buzz. A text from Claire, 30s, polite font. Looking forward to tomorrow. David can't wait for your famous pie. Margaret smiles without warmth. Oh, sweetheart. Do bring an appetite. She tucks the folder under her arm, crosses to Robert's recliner. It sits exactly as he left it. She lowers herself, stares at the empty seat opposite as if he were in it. Margaret. You told me people change around money. I didn't believe you. Silence answers. The house listens. She rises with purpose. Intern Margaret's study, night. Desk lamp on, papers fanned, trusts, deeds, insurance policies. Margaret's hands moved with the efficiency of someone who's balanced books for decades. She signs here and here. She places a yellow tab on a sealed manila envelope. For tomorrow. She powers off the lamp. In the dark, the envelope glows pale. Extern Margaret's house. Morning. A crisp morning. The lawn is clipped. The roses are awake. At 9 a.m. sharp, a sedan rolls up. David steps out in a sport coat that can't hide the fray. Claire follows, tight smile, bouquet of daisies wrapped in cellophane. Intern foyer. Continuous. Doorbell. Margaret opens, radiant, in a pressed blouse. No apron, no flower. Mom! He hugs too hard, too long. Margaret endures. These are for you, Margaret. Daisies. David said, how thoughtful. She doesn't sneeze. She takes them like a specimen, turns and leads them in. Intern living room. Moments later. Coffee steams. Plates sit ready. The pie waits under a glass dome like a trophy. Claire's eyes wandered to a gleaming china cabinet. David's gaze moves over framed photos like a buyer at an estate sale. Small talk with the precision of a dentist drill. David, house looks great. Margaret, it holds up. They settle. Margaret pours. David, Mom, Claire and I have been thinking about your, situation. My situation. Being alone, a big house, responsibilities. What responsibilities do you imagine, dear? He glances at Claire. Yard work, maintenance, groceries, medications. Margaret. I take vitamins. Of course, and you're so independent. But wouldn't it be nice to not worry? She lays down a glossy brochure. Amber Brook Estates, resort-style living. Photos of silver-haired couples doing chair yoga beside a turquoise pool. David, look, golf, restaurants, transportation. Margaret, what does it cost? The monthly fee starts at $8,000, but if you sell this house, proceeds cover years. It's smart. Margaret studies them, then the brochure, then her coffee. She sets it down. And when I die, what happens to the remainder? A pause like a swallowed stone. Whatever is left goes to beneficiaries, as outlined in your will. Margaret, you've read my will? Not read. We know the basics. Sarah and I share equally. That's what you and Dad always... That's changed.
The thermostat of the room drops 10 degrees. Claire, changed? How? Margaret, I've updated things several times since your father died. David's jaw flexes. Major financial decisions? Mom, you should have discussed. Margaret, I did, with your father, before he died, and with James. She stands, crosses to a side desk, retrieves the manila envelope, sets it gently on the coffee table. Her hands are steady. The phone rings. Caller ID, James Morrison. Margaret answers on speaker. Margaret Thompson. James, phone. Mrs. Thompson, confirming all documents we discussed are filed and executed as of this morning. Everything is now legally binding and in effect. Margaret's eyes hold David's. Thank you, Jim. Your punctuality is a blessing. She ends the call. Silence expands, taut and humming. David, protection plan? Claire, what protection plan? Margaret slides the envelope closer to them, but doesn't open it. The kind your father insisted on when he realized grief makes people do strange things, even family, especially family. Claire's smile goes brittle. Margaret, you don't need to make any drastic. Margaret, interesting word. David leans forward, palms up, voice soft. Let's not get emotional. We're just worried. You've been alone. We want... Margaret reaches for the phone, scrolls, taps. A blue play triangle glows. David's VO. Can't stand this useless old hag anymore. Soon she'll be taking her final nap, and we'll be spending all her money in Paris. The words flood the room. The grandfather clock in the hall ticks between each syllable like a metronome counting down. Claire's face empties. David doesn't blink. His eyes glass over like he's underwater. The message ends. The clock keeps time. Margaret, would you like to hear it again? David, Mom, I can explain. Margaret, please, choose your words carefully. He swallows. I was frustrated. It came out wrong. We've been talking about your safety, about you living alone. Claire, completely out of context. David's been so stressed. We were... Margaret, planning Paris? She taps her phone again. A photo fills the screen. Claire's Instagram. Caption, can't wait for our romantic Paris getaway. Finally booked the hotel we've been dreaming about. Margaret turns the screen. Claire's throat works. That's for our anniversary next year. Margaret, in March? The caption says September. David drags his palms down his face. We booked a trip. It's not what you think. Margaret, I think you were measuring my pulse with a calendar. I think you were pushing me toward an expensive drain so the remainder would flow faster. I think my son is counting down my life like a mortgage. David's voice rises, cracks. Do you know what it's like watching your mother live alone? Wondering how long? He stops. He looks 11 years old and then 45 again, the age that can't decide which is worse, guilt or exposure. Claire's eyes film with tears. They look expensive. We love you, Margaret. We've handled it badly, but our hearts... Margaret, your hearts are in my bank account. She lifts the manila envelope once more, not opening it, just tapping it with a fingernail, a metronome of her own. Margaret, your father asked me to protect myself. I promised. James has filed the protections. They trigger when someone tries to coerce, manipulate, or take advantage of me. David freezes. Claire's teardrop hangs, doesn't fall. What protections? Margaret reaches across the table. This time she opens the flap. A thick stack of documents, tabs, signatures, a single sheet clipped on top. Contingency amendments in effect. She doesn't hand it over yet. Before we look at these, we're going to do something difficult but clarifying. She sets the phone on the table between them, screen down, as if laying a card in a game. Margaret, I'm going to ask you one question. You'll answer without asking another. Ready? David nods with the care of a man defusing a bomb. Margaret, when did you book Paris? Claire breaks. 3 days ago. David, Claire, I'm tired of lying, David. Margaret moves the documents half an inch closer. Good. Honesty looks better on you than daisies. A beat. Air tastes different now. The front hallway clock chimes the quarter hour, a faint sound like a gavel. Margaret finally lets go of the stack. David grabs, Claire reads over his shoulder. Their eyes track left to right, faster, then stop. David's cheeks drain. Claire's mouth opens. Claire, this says... David, no, this can't be. Margaret sips her coffee, patient. We hold on their faces as the words on the page land like blows we don't need to hear. The pie glints beneath the glass dome, untouched. Margaret leans back, folds her hands in her lap. There's the truth. Now, what you do with it, that's the part I can't protect you from. They look up at her in tandem, as if the room tilted and she's the only steady thing left. Cut to black.
David's fingers squeeze the stack of documents until the paper protests. Claire, reading. If either child attempts to coerce, manipulate, or otherwise exploit the widow... Her voice thins. David, all assets transferred to designated charities effective immediately. He looks up, gray, like the marrow's been scraped out of him. David, this can't be legal. Margaret, your father made sure it is. Claire sets the pages down as if they're hot. Claire, Margaret, please, you can't... We're family. Margaret, family doesn't plan Paris on a dead woman's timetable. David, voice catching. We were scared. He stops. The grandfather clock ticks, slow and surgical. Margaret, you thought I'd be easy. I'm not. Claire swipes at tears that won't fall. We love you. Margaret, then leave before I learn to hate you. A long beat. David swallows, nods, rises. He guides Claire up by the elbow. At the door, David. Mom? Off her silence, we'll talk. Margaret. No. You'll listen. The door closes. The house exhales. Back garden minutes later. Margaret walks the pie to the compost.
Sun flares off the glass dome. She lifts the lid. The golden lattice stares back, perfect, pointless. She upends the pie into the dark mouth of the bin. It lands with a sodden thud. By the fence, Robert's roses are blood red and unapologetic. Helen, 70s, neighbor, peeks over the hedge. Everything all right, Margaret? Saw David leave in quite a hurry. Margaret, everything's finally right, Helen. Helen studies her, nods once, disappears into the peonies. Internal living room, evening. Margaret and Robert's recliner. The room a museum of their marriage. Her phone lights with Sarah. She answers, puts it on speaker. No softness. Sarah. Phone. Mom? David just called. He says... Margaret. He says a lot. Did he tell you about the message he sent me? Silence. Then a cautious inhale. Sarah. Phone. What message? Margaret taps play. David's voice, venom and Paris, fills the room again. It leaves a residue. Sarah's breath comes back small.
I didn't know I would never... You discussed my situation yesterday. We're worried about you, the house, being alone. Worried about me or about planning around me? That isn't fair. Fair would be visits that aren't appraisals. A long beat. When Sarah speaks again, her voice is wet glass. What happens now? Now, the will stands. The protections stand. If either of you pushes me again, everything goes to charity. Mom! Good night, Sarah. She ends the call. The room is suddenly wider. In tight kitchen, dawn. A kettle whispers. Light is pale milk through the window. The doorbell rings, too early. Margaret opens it in a robe. David stands there, unshaven, eyes bruised with no sleep. Please, 10 minutes. In tight kitchen, moments later. He sits at the table he grew up at, both hands around a mug he hasn't sipped. I'm not here to fix your will. I know I broke something bigger. I said those words. I said them. I've been drowning. Commissions are down. We're in debt. I looked at your life like a life raft. Margaret watches him. This is a confession, not a performance, but she measures anyway. When you were 12 and stole $20 for comic books, what did I say? Trust is easy to break and hard to rebuild. This is harder. He nods, eyes bright. Tell me what to do. Accept that the money is gone to you. Call when you miss me, not when you need me. Visit because you want coffee, not an inventory.
He swallows the rules like pills. David, I can do that. Margaret, ask me about the will again in a year. A slow, aching smile. David, then I'll see you next Sunday. No brochures. He leaves his untouched coffee. He leaves something else behind, too. A small, possible future. Exterior, downtown, next morning. A restored Victorian with a brass plaque, James Morrison, SQ. Interior, law office, private office, day. Mahogany, files stacked in a neat fortress. James closes the door behind Margaret and gestures to a chair. On the desk, a fat binder stamped Thompson Family Trust, confidential provisions. James, everything I'm about to show you was Robert's idea. He made me promise not to reveal it unless certain triggers were met. Margaret, they've been met. James opens the binder. The paper smell is clean and dangerous. 6 months before he passed, Robert hired a private investigator. He wanted a clear picture, no surprises for you. Margaret absorbs it without flinching, then flinches when he lays out photos, statements, printouts. James points, a measured metronome of facts. James continued. David and Claire refinanced twice, 6 credit cards maxed out, a loan against his 401k, consumer debt north of $200,000. A second stack. James continued. Sarah and Tom, private school tuition, cars, kitchen renovation, $150,000 in revolving debt. Margaret presses a palm flat on the desk to stop the room from tilting. Margaret. They never said a word. James. They needed your inheritance to keep the facade alive. He slides a sealed envelope across, blue ink on the front, for Margaret if the worst happens. Her breath shivers. She breaks the seal. Robert's handwriting, strong, deliberate. We don't read the whole thing. We watch her read it, watch her eyes wet and go ferocious, the tremor in her jaw on one line, the stillness on the next. She reaches the postscript, looks up. Margaret. He left an account. James. A safety net. He wanted you solvent enough to be untouchable, or to disappear if you needed to. He swivels the monitor, types, enters the credentials Robert chose, Rose Garden, of course. On the screen, a balance, $3,200,000, digits that look like a door. Margaret's breath leaves her in a quiet, private laugh, half grief, half gratitude. Margaret. He was always 3 steps ahead. James studies her face, then flips to another tab in the binder. His voice goes careful. James. There's more. Margaret goes still. James continued. 3 months ago, Robert took out a life insurance policy on you. Time stutters. The clock on the credenza ticks once louder than before. Margaret. No. James. $2 million. He listed himself as beneficiary and described an insurable interest, caregiver, financially responsible for your welfare. Beat. It doubles in case of accidental death. The air thins. Margaret grips the chair arms until color drains from her knuckles. Margaret. Sarah? James. Present when he applied. It's in the investigator's photographs. He slides a glossy across the desk. David in a fluorescent lit office, pen in hand. Sarah in the background, folded arms, a smile that doesn't touch her eyes. The radiator hums. Outside, a siren threads the street and fades. Margaret. Say the words again. James. A policy on your life, $2 million, double for accident. Margaret's stare focuses through him, past the drywall, into the years she rewinds and watches differently. The brochures, the inspections, the calendar math around Paris. She stands too fast, the chair legs squeal. She steadies, palms on the desk, grounding on wood. Margaret. We're going to end this. James. Margaret. Margaret. Arrange a meeting, all of them, here, tomorrow. James weighs the angles, the dangers. Is that wise? Margaret's eyes are flint and rosethorn. They think I'm prey. I want them to see the teeth. James closes the binder with a soft, final thud, the sound of a trap arming. James. 2 p.m. I'll have everything ready. Margaret nods once, small and lethal. Exterior, sidewalk, day. She steps into the daylight carrying the envelope with Robert's letter like a relic and a weapon. People move around her. The world continues, ordinary and loud. Across the street, a bus brake hisses. A cyclist glides past. A child laughs. A dog barks at pigeons. All that uncomplicated life. Margaret looks up at a pale strip of sky. Margaret. Quiet, to no one, or to Robert. Watch me. She turns, sets off down the block with a precise, unwavering stride.
The house ticks and breathes. Margaret stands at the counter with Robert's letter folded in her palm like a warm coin. She dials a number written in his hand. Daniel Rivers, 40s, private investigator, answers with a low, alert voice. Mrs. Thompson? Margaret. Mr. Rivers, James said you worked for my husband. I need everything. Daniel, phone. You're sure? Margaret. Don't soften it. Give me the facts. A beat. Paper ruffles on his end. Your son called your physician, pretending to be concerned about cognitive decline, twice. He asked about competency evaluations and medication risks. Margaret's eyes go flat. Daniel, phone, continued. Your daughter's been telling family friends you're forgetful, laying groundwork. Margaret. For guardianship. Daniel, phone. They consulted an attorney about declaring you incompetent. Nothing filed yet. And you know about the life insurance? Margaret's grip tightens on the edge of the counter until the wood creaks. Margaret, $2 million. Double if I trip on the wrong staircase. Daniel, phone. I advise against a confrontation. Desperation makes people stupid and dangerous. Margaret, then let them be stupid in front of a lawyer. I want a record. Silence. Then the soft sigh of a man who knows a train won't be stopped. Daniel, phone. I'll be nearby. Margaret, no capes, no rescues, just eyes. He doesn't argue. The line goes dead. Interior Law Office, reception, next day, 1:58 p.m. A runner's clock above the receptionist's desk flips to 58. The building smells like oiled wood and old victories. David and Claire arrive first, too brisk for courtesy. Sarah and her husband, Tom, 40s, tidy menace, step off the elevator seconds later. Tom's smile is church quiet and wrong. Receptionist. Mrs. Thompson is ready for you. Interior conference room, continuous. Mahogany table, a tray of water glasses, a window throwing pale light over stacks of files. James Morrison stands at the head, Margaret beside him in a navy blazer that makes her look like a verdict. They sit. Chairs slide and scrape, paper rustles, no one touches the water. James, thank you for coming. We'll proceed straightforwardly. He opens a thin folder and sets a document in the center of the table like a card in a high-stakes game. James, continued. Policy number 7749382. Mrs. Thompson's life insured for $2 million. Beneficiary, David Michael Thompson. Signed 3 months ago. Double indemnity in case of accidental death. Claire blanches. Sarah's mouth opens and shuts. Tom's eyes don't move. They sharpen. David, hoarse. It's not. We weren't. It was precaution. Estate taxes. Margaret. On whose estate? David. Yours. Margaret. So you insured my life to make my death affordable. He flinches like she slapped him. Sarah. We didn't plan. Mom, we would never. Tom. Anodyne. Plenty of families manage risk with policies. James. Plenty of families don't list themselves as caregivers to create insurable interest, Mr. Hale. Tom's smile returns, thinner. James, continued. For the record, we have photographic evidence of the application meeting. He lays down a photo. David signing, Sarah in the background, fluorescent lighting that forgives nothing. Silence. Swallows the room. Margaret slides the photo back like it burns. Margaret, next. James opens a thicker file, paper stacked like a city skyline. He starts placing statements, balances, refinance schedules, tuition invoices, the math of a life lived 2 sizes too big. James. David and Claire, refinances, 6 Max cards, a 401k loan, current consumer debt, $206,000. He turns a page. Sarah and Tom, private school, vehicles, kitchen renovation, revolving debt, $152,000. Claire's eyes glitter with mortified fury. Sarah stares at a knot in the table and wills it to be a hole to fall through. Tom glances at the totals like they're line items he might negotiate. David, low, you had us investigated? Margaret, your father did, 6 months before he died. He loved you enough to be honest about who you are. David, we were drowning. Margaret, you reached for me like a life raft and tried to punch a hole in it. James closes the debt file and opens a Ferd. Slim, heavy paper, embossed tabs. He turns the monitor so everyone sees. He types. A balance populates with zeros that look like teeth. James, account ending 3291, your father's safety net for your mother. Balance, $3.2 million. All 4 faces freeze at once. The air thins. Claire, you were rich this entire time? Margaret, solvent. Quietly. That's different. David, and you let us? Margaret, I let you show me who you were when you thought I wasn't. Tom breaks the silence with a practical, obscene question. Tom, what happens to that money? The question hangs there, naked and unashamed. Margaret's gaze cuts to him, then back to her children. She doesn't blink. Margaret, it goes where I decide. Today is about something else. She reaches into her bag and takes out a single-page letter, crisp, notarized. Margaret, effective immediately, I'm revoking any claim that either of you is responsible for my care. No insurable interest. James will notify the carrier this afternoon. James, already in motion. Margaret, inhale, slow, deliberate. Now we talk about what family is. Beat. Family doesn't measure the calendar against a parent's pulse. Family doesn't rehearse incompetency hearings in kitchens. Family doesn't lace grief with math. Sarah cries without noise. David stares at a glass of water he hasn't touched. Claire's hands are folded so tight her knuckles are the color of paper. Tom leans back, calculating exits. Margaret, here are my terms. You leave. You do not contact me for money, updates about my will, or concerns about my living situation. If you can love me without a ledger for 5 years, you can ask to come back into my life. If you can't, you have your answer. Claire whispered, 5 years? Margaret, my life without your hands on it. David, Mom, please. Margaret, no. She stands. The room stands with her. Sarah, what about criminal charges? All eyes slide to James, then back to Margaret. Time holds. Margaret, I'm not pressing charges today. You won't enjoy the freedom as much as you think. Tom's chin lifts a millimeter as if he's won a small argument no one else heard. Margaret, understand me. If either of you pushes again, if I hear assisted living from your mouths, if I call my doctor, if you ask me to sign anything, every cent goes to charity. The documents are signed, the triggers are live. Claire finally speaks like a person, not a performance. We're monsters to you. Margaret's face softens and hardens at the same time. You're my children. That's why I'm giving you a chance. Time can spoil. Don't Wasted. She gathers her bag, nods to James, and turns for the door. Tom. Quiet, pointed. We deserve something, Margaret. She stops with her hand on the handle. When she looks back, her eyes are winter. Earn it. Margaret walks past framed diplomas and sepia photographs of men shaking hands over contracts, past a glass case of antique legal texts, past the receptionist who looks up and sees something in Margaret she didn't when she arrived. A woman finished apologizing. Down the hall, a man reading a magazine lifts his eyes as she passes. Daniel Rivers. He doesn't stand, doesn't nod, just watches, a quiet perimeter. Exterior law office, day. Sun on the steps. Margaret pauses, breathes, feels the air go all the way down. Her phone buzzes. Helen. Tea later? She types, yes, 5. She smiles at nothing. She starts down the steps. Interior conference room. Same. The door closes behind her. The room shrinks. James stacks the files. Paper thuds are little funerals. David turns to Sarah, voice dry as old wood. We just got erased. We did that ourselves. Tom reaches for one of the water glasses at last, drinks as if it's a toast. 5 years is a long time. Claire looks like she might break, then decides not to. We'll do it. Or we'll find another way. David stares at him. Sarah stares at the door. Interior James' office, minutes later. Margaret sits across from James again. Smaller room, softer light. I can file a police report for the policy fraud today. No, not yet. Restraining notices to the insurance carrier and your providers are already outbound. We'll lock down your medical information. I'll have your home security updated by nightfall. Margaret exhales. The shape of the day fits around her. James continued. You did well. I did what Robert would have done, only meaner. James almost smiles. He slides a new slim folder across. Keys, contact numbers, a card with monitored security service. If anything feels off, call. You don't have to prove it's off before you call. She pockets the card. Thank you, Jim. Exterior, sidewalk late afternoon. Traffic murmurs. A child's kite tatters against a street lamp and breaks free. Margaret watches it climb and vanish. Her phone loos with a new message. Unknown number. Can we talk? She deletes it without opening. Across the street, a car idles too long. The driver's face is a silhouette. Margaret's eyes flick there, then away. She chooses not to flinch. She steps off the curb. Interior Margaret's house. Evening. Deadbolt clicks. Lamps on. The quiet is clean. She stands in the kitchen where the pie cooled and died. She sets a kettle on the stove. Steam starts. The windows silver with dusk. Robert's roses are dark against the glass, sturdy, unbothered by the wind. Margaret takes down 1 teacup. Then she takes down 2. The room is clear, controlled. A laptop, open on the coffee table, glows with text threads. Daniel Rivers sits forward, sleeves rolled, eyes tracking the screen like a bomb tech. Daniel. Claire to David yesterday. Maybe if we make her think someone's threatening her, she'll come back for protection. He scrolls. Daniel. David to Tom. If emotional manipulation doesn't work, we might have to get creative. Beat. Claire. What kind of creative? David. The kind where accidents happen to people who travel alone. The words hang, heavy as iron. Margaret stands very still, palms flat on the table. The grandfather clock counts each breath. Margaret. They know about the trip? Daniel. They know your cooking class schedule, your airline, your departure time. They pulled the info off a travel folder you left on your desk. David took a photo. Looking up. We need the police looped in now. The doorbell rings. Sharp. Too eager. Daniel's hand is already moving, phone up to his ear. Daniel, into phone. Rivers, green light. Address confirmed. Send units. Margaret doesn't move. We're not hiding. She walks to the door and opens it. Sarah stands there, hair smooth, smile smoother. Tom beside her, posture polite and predatory. Hi, Mom. We were in the neighborhood. You look great. Italy agrees with you. I haven't left yet. Sarah's smile thins. I meant the classes. Smelled basil on the breeze? Interior living room. Continuous. They step inside uninvited, eyes skimming corners like they're assessing angles. Tom clocks the laptop, the stranger. And who's this? Daniel. A friend. Sarah drifts to the mantel, fingertips grazing the photo from class. Margaret with a pasta roller laughing. The joy in it is inconvenient. You do look happy. I am. Sarah turns, smile gone. It won't last if you keep shutting us out. Tom steps closer to Daniel, reading him at a molecular level. You're private security. I'm here to make sure the truth doesn't get interrupted. Sarah, interrupting. Mom, we need to reset. No. No, you don't even know what You plan to accidentally run into me at the airport? You practiced crying. Then you texted about creative solutions for solo travelers. Tom's look flicks to Sarah. What did you text exactly? Then back to Margaret. Genial veneer cracking. Words are flexible. Context, sirens, faint but coming, thread the window's glass. Sarah hears them. She turns her head like an animal scenting weather. What did you do? What you forced me to do. I told the truth to people whose job is to measure it. Tom laughs, an empty metallic sound. You called the police on your own children. I called the police on a conspiracy. The sirens swell. Tires crunch gravel. Doors slam. Tom moves, one step forward, one hand up. The calm of a man who thinks charm is a weapon. Let's not make a scene. Daniel, quiet. The scene's already made. The front door opens without a knock. 2 uniformed officers and a detective in plainclothes enter with the cool confidence of paperwork already signed. Detective Ramirez, 50s, crisp, measuring, holds up a folded document. Sarah Hale, Thomas Hale? Sarah. This is insane. Detective Ramirez. You're under arrest for insurance fraud, conspiracy to commit elder financial abuse, and attempted coercion. You have the right to silence. Tom lifts his hands, smile back, disarming and hollow. We should talk to a lawyer. You should. You will. An officer gently but firmly turns Sarah's wrists. She jerks once, then surrenders them, eyes fixed on Margaret with a strange, pleading rage. Sarah, don't do this. We're family. Margaret doesn't look away. Her voice is soft and exact. Family doesn't plan accidents. The cuffs click. The sound lands like a period. Tom leans past the officer cuffing him, voice low to Margaret. This isn't over. It is if you're smart. Tom's eyes cut to Daniel, memorizes his face, file it under future. He's guided towards the door. Detective Ramirez turns to Margaret, tone changing like light. Mrs. Thompson, officers are simultaneously executing warrants on David Thompson and Claire Thompson at their residences. Your statements and the investigator's documentation were thorough. My husband taught me to keep receipts. Ramirez nods once, the kind of nod given to survivors who chose to fight. We'll be in touch. If you need a victim advocate, I have one. 2, actually. She looks at Daniel, then at the roses visible through the window, Robert's persistent handwriting in petals. Exed, Margaret's house, moments later. Sarah and Tom are walked across the lawn. Neighbors peek over hedges. Helen, in a visor and garden gloves, freezes with a hose in hand. Water keeps flowing, making a small lake by her geraniums. Helen meets Margaret's eye. Margaret lifts a hand, small, steady. Helen's mouth softens. She nods once, turns off the water. Interior living room. After. The house is quiet again, but a different quiet, the kind after thunder. Daniel closes the laptop, unplugs cords with the ritual of ending a vigil. They'll arraign today. Restraining orders will be immediate. Your travel, do you still want to go? Margaret considers the room, the chair, the china, the clock, and what it contains. Countless meals, marriage, mourning, a family meeting that severed and saved her in the same stroke. She turns to the window. The roses move in a wind she can't hear. Yes. She runs a fingertip over Robert's letter on the table, then tucks it into her bag like a passport. I'll have someone watch the house while you're gone. Don't hover, just keep eyes. That's what I do. He starts for the door, pauses. Your husband was a planner. You're an executor. She smiles, small and true. He built the map. I decided to drive. He goes. The door closes. The clock ticks. Margaret stands in the center of her own life, unafraid of the echo. Exed, airport 2 weeks later, morning. Glass and steel, announcements and rolling suitcases. Margaret moves through it with a carry-on, a passport, and a face that doesn't ask for permission. She clears security. She buys a coffee. She says yes to a seat by the window and no to anyone's help lifting her bag. A text pings on her phone. Helen, send photos of the green. Margaret replies, send all the green. She boards. Interior, Dublin, late afternoon. The city is rain-rinsed and gold-edged. Margaret stands on the Haypenny Bridge and lets the river wind smack her cheeks cool. People brush around her, full of their own stories. She laughs once, quietly, for no one. It feels like finding a door that was in the wall the whole time. Interior, small Dublin cafe evening. A window table, tea with milk, a postcard in front of her, a cliff in impossible sunlight. She writes, Helen, the roses here are wild and reckless. You'd approve. Scotland next. M. Her phone buzzes. Unknown number. She taps. David, text. It's me, Mom. I'm sorry for everything. I hope someday you can forgive me. The tea steam lifts, curls, disappears. She reads it once. She doesn't forward it to anyone. She doesn't craft a reply for future her to second guess. She deletes the message. The phone goes still. A waitress at 20s arrives with a plate, scones, butter, jam. Her smile is warm and uncomplicated. Anything else for you? No, this is perfect. The girl leaves. Margaret breaks the scone, watches the crumb rise in steam. A couple at a nearby table bickers gently over a map. An old man stirs soup as if he's translating it. Outside, a bus sighs. A child presses a leaf to the window and giggles when it sticks. Margaret takes a bite. Butter, salt, heat. Tears prick without warning, not from loss, but from finally feeding herself something she wants. She chews, swallows, breathes. A new ritual. Witness, then release. She signs the postcard, seals it, addresses it in clean, decisive script. Xed, postbox dusk. A red mouth in a stone wall. Margaret slips the card in and hears it rattle down to join the others. She lays a palm on the paint, a quick benediction for words in transit. Her phone buzzes once more, a different unknown number. 1 beat. 2. She lets it hum in her pocket until it stops. She turns, walks towards the fading light, coat collar up, hair loose. Her step finds that precise, unwavering cadence again. Interior, hotel room night. A modest room, tidy, a suitcase half unpacked, a guidebook bristling with sticky tabs. On the nightstand, Robert's letter folded open at the crease, and a photo of the roses taken this morning by Helen, sent with a caption, "Still blooming." Margaret stands at the window. The city glows. Church bells mark an hour she doesn't name. She speaks, not to the glass, not to the letter, but to the space that used to be fear and is now air. "I'm all right." She leaves the curtain half open. She leaves the letter on the nightstand, not under her pillow. She turns off the lamp. Interior, Margaret's house, same night intercut. Back home, moonlight on the roses. A motion light clicks on for a cat. The lock on the door is new. The silence is not empty. It's earned.
Interior, hotel room, continuous. In the dark, Margaret lies on her back, eyes open, mouth soft. She smiles once, a small flash in the dark, and lets sleep come like a choice. Fade out.